Let's talk about it. Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we are talking about Spider-Man No Way Home. Now I will not be spoiling this, not here. This is the review without spoilers. I will do a spoiler video later for those of you who have seen it, or if you don't care about spoilers, that will come later after this one. Now in terms of not spoiling it, I'm going to clarify what I mean. Anything that was in the trailers, I'm going to say is open game. I'm going to talk about what was in the trailers and what we've seen there. Otherwise, if you have not seen the trailers, you've avoided everything. I recommend going out and seeing it. I think you're really going to enjoy it. But don't watch this review, don't watch anything, stay off the internet. For the one person that gets their movie news from me and no one else somehow. So what do I think? I think it's really good. I thought Homecoming was a good movie, but not a great interpretation of Spider-Man. I haven't talked about Far From Home here, but I really didn't like it and I really hated the direction they took it. And they have somehow turned around and made what I was very worried about being a lot of just faces. Here's Alfred Molina, here's Willem Dafoe, here's all these faces that the story and heart and everything about Tom Spider-Man would just get buried. That it would be a lot of flashy stuff to look at, but not much substance underneath that. My worries were vanquished because this is all about Tom and his story, and not about who's here and these different villains, but about how they contribute to Tom's story and pushing that. The film is not perfect. I have issues with it. There are problems. You could nitpick it to pieces because there's certain things that just don't make sense. But the beating heart underneath all the flashiness with the villains that we see is not just there to keep the film alive, but is thriving. I think that this is a good Spider-Man movie and a good interpretation of Spider-Man, at least here in this film, especially the way the film wraps up post the third act, and you will see that when you see it. I think that Tom has so much material to work with here that he can give a very, very involved performance in Peter. I think Zendaya and Ned are fine. Again, they're supporting characters like they were in the last couple of films. Doctor Strange is the character I feel that's really here to just serve the plot and to service whatever the film kind of needs. As for the villains, we see so much of Alfred Molina in the trailers, and if you know Spider-Man in the Sinister Six, Doc Ock generally runs the Sinister Six. So in my eyes, and I think a lot of people's, he was supposed to be the main antagonist out of the group really, but that is not the case. Don't worry, I'm not ruining anything, even with the rumored speculation of all that stuff that we all know about. Even with that, you don't know anything. There is a lot to be spoiled, and I will talk about that soon. So when I tell you that Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin really steals the show here, I ain't telling you anything. What it does tell you is that these characters are not just here for a, hey look it's me, they actually have a lot more to do with the plot. One of the biggest problems for me in this film was the tone. Sometimes the film would sacrifice some very dramatic moments for the Marvel humor. The Marvel humor, it works 30% of the time. There's actually some jokes that work, but for most of it, it is just taking away and sucking you out of this film for a cheap laugh. Certain questions are brought up that are never answered in the film, as well as characters that seemingly go missing for hours of screen time. Certain characters' motivations change on a whim, and parts of the film felt very rushed and very fast because there is so much going on. So it is not perfect. And those flaws normally could tear it down, but because of the core of the film and the story that it's telling with Tom, and how finally Tom Spider-Man is facing consequences and having to make sacrifices in this film, it blows all that stuff away and remains a strong film underneath. Certain characters feel a little bit off. A great way of kind of explaining that is like, you've got Alfred Molina and you've got Willem Dafoe. They are who you know them to be, but they've got this thin layer of like MCU coated on them, so they act a little bit off. Sometimes it's bang on, sometimes, and I will talk about it in spoilers, it's straying so far that it's unnatural. In terms of grading the film, I really need to see it again and digest it because there is so much. The runtime is near 3 hours, and in the 3 hours, it feels like you're getting a reveal every 20 minutes. And it's a big deal, so I'm gonna give it a grade, but whether that changes in the future, it might. But as it stands now, I am going to give Spider-Man No Way Home an 8 out of 10. And it's a strong 8 out of 10. I can't believe I'm grading one of Tom Holland's Spider-Man movies so high, but it does a great job. Not because of the fan service with the villains and other twists that happen in the film, but the core of the film itself. I do need to see it again. I saw it at a midnight screening, so I was up at 3, 4 in the morning trying to process it, and there's still a lot going on in my head. So don't go in the comments section. I doubt that anyone will really be there, but avoid it if you don't want anything spoiled. Stay off the internet entirely. What are you even doing if you care to see it? I do think it's worth going to the cinema to see. The crowd reaction, we got many pops where they were just going off. People were yelling and cheering. It was a great experience. And one I think you should have. If you liked the video, consider liking the video. If you haven't already, maybe consider subscribing. I review movies all the time, and I'm now a fan of Tom's Spider-Man. If you've made it all the way through to the end of the review, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I can catch you in the spoiler review. Bye guys.